You're listening to the Struggles We Grow From podcast.
We're Austin and Sydney Prince. Let's get into today's episode.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Struggles We Grow From podcast. Austin and Sydney here.
Yep,
right?
I'm here.
A little bit, a lot of bit, maybe.
What does that even mean?
I don't know. I'm just talking at this point. Hey, we're going to dive into another episode. How about that?
All right. So we've started discussing parenting in the last episode. So if this is your first time listening to us, welcome. I would recommend going back and maybe listening to that just to get a foundation of what we're talking about. But we just really quickly discussed just the lack of discipleship in the home and why we thought that might be. And so we're leading with that into this conversation.
Yeah.
Talking about family values, which is where we left off last time.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about how we can kind of do this episode. Do we talk more from like a, hey, here's a strategy, or here's our experiences? But what, the whole thing that we want to talk about is what does it mean to have like a core value as a family?
Yeah.
Like, what is your family's core
we
value?
didn't come up with this.
No.
We, very early on in parenting, which for those of you that have kids that are older than us, like older than our kids,
Yep.
You can still do this. Like, it's not too late to do this. And then for those that you might be newly married, you might be expecting a baby, you might have young children, you might have a baby at home. This is for you too. Or one day you hope to be married and hope to be a parent. This is for you, especially for you that are early on in parenting or are expecting a child or want to have a child one day. I feel like this is a great thing to know and a great thing to begin that journey with. We were very blessed to be able for someone to speak this into our life and for us to do it so early on. So Tobias was like, he wasn't even a year old yet. He was like 8 months, maybe. We were very new parents and we had no idea what we were doing. But I think we were in a life group, right?
This was a life group thing. Yep.
And I think it was like kind of a part of the whatever workbook we were doing.
No, let me correct. No, it was like a one night thing that we did at the church. It wasn't a life group thing. It was like a one night thing that we did at the church.
No, I think it was the parenting unscripted thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
there was different ways that we did it.
It was at our home. We watched the video of the conference. And then this was, so anyway, it was kind of like homework, as you will, for this thing. So basically the homework was to separately write down 10 family values that you want your family to be built upon. So when we talk about values, they put it in a way that I still think about it this way today is, what do you want to be the most important thing in your family? And if you were to ask your kids one day, what do you think is the most important thing in your family? You would hope that they would say what the values are, right? Mm-hmm. So, sorry, he's getting on to me because I'm looking at the camera. It's like just right there. I've moved in here, and so now it's just like right in front of me.
Get on to.
I need to adjust my body. Okay.
Get on to is a strong word.
So, anyway, we did it as kind of like a date. Mm-hmm. I think we went to like Outback Steakhouse.
So let me give a little bit more detail.
We had separately written down our values.
Yeah.
But the plan was separately write them down on your own time. He had a paper, I had a paper. 10 values. Then you were supposed to come together, discuss the 10 values, but then land on like top 5 or, if you want to do top 3, whatever. But we did top 5. And so that was interesting because we had never talked about that before as parents and as like spouses, because it was just interesting to see what you thought should be the values and what I thought should be the values, because a lot of it was different. Mm-hmm. So then it was like, now we have to work on what are the values. Like, we have to come together on that. And we did that over dinner, and it was like a date, and we did that, and it was good. But anyway, what did you?
No. That could have been. We could have explained that a whole lot longer, and you just explained it in like 2 minutes.
Well, we can. I just wanted to give context to like we did that, and this is how we did it. But we can go more in depth into like what family values are, and kind of what ours were. Yeah, I didn't get into that.
No, so the family values that we had to put together were not. I mean, they had to be valuable to us, right? We had to value them to put them down. But they weren't from the perspective of like, these are things that I want. It was more, what do I want my family to be like? When it's all said and done. Mm-hmm. I'm either about to sneeze or yawn, huh?
I'm going to yawn
now. There we go. When it's all said and done, when your kids are moved out of the house, what do you want them to look back on and say, Mom and Dad valued XYZ?
Yeah.
So that was kind of as we were writing our 10 values each.
Right. It was
a big
looking
idea.
Into the future. It wasn't just right now. Can we change that? When we talked about that later on down the road, if we think, now what the value is, maybe one needs to change, or that's fine. But for like looking into the future, we didn't know we were going to have 3 kids. We didn't know anything. We didn't even know at that point that we were going to really step into ministry. I mean, that was when both of us were, not. And so life now looks a whole different, but I think our values still are the same.
Yeah.
I mean, we did ask, like, now that Tobias is like older and like he's able to put his thoughts into words and give opinions on things and ask questions. Like, we've asked him, I think it was about a month ago, what do you think is the most important thing to Mommy and Daddy? And I mean, I think sometimes, when you're in it, you think you suck. Mm-hmm. You think that you are like the worst at parenting, the worst at discipline, like the worst of it all. And just to hear him say, like, you care about knowing more about Jesus. Mm-hmm. You care about that.
Yeah.
Because the reason we're talking about this is because we said last time, there's a lack of discipleship in the home. And I think if more families wrote down our values and we were looking at them as, okay, I want my family values to align with God's will. Mm-hmm. What is God's will? Well, first of all, he's commanded me to disciple my kids. He's commanded me to talk about him all the time, every moment of the day. Yep. If we have that frame of mind, your values are going to be centered around that. Yep. So then everything that you do is going to be wanting to value that. Yeah. And then we're going to be on the right track. We're not just like going about life like at the seat of our pants, like just trying to figure it out as like we go along. Yeah. Like, I think that would make a world of difference. So like if you were to ask your kids, and some of you, you might have older children, and you ask them like, what do you think is the most important thing to Mom? Or what do you think is the most important thing to Dad? And they said, your job, your career, how good I do at my sports. Like, I'm sorry, I'm talking with my hands. Oh my gosh. What am I supposed to do? Sit on them?
No, just quit karate chopping the table because the mic's picking up.
But anyway, you get what I'm saying. Like, that's just that can sometimes be a scary thing to ask your teenage kid or your older kid, like, what do you think is the most important? And if the answer is not what you want it to be, it's not a too late thing to go, okay, something I didn't do. I don't know. I didn't do something that I needed to do, or I wasn't valuing the right thing, or, I wasn't making Jesus a priority in my home, and I was just letting the church do that.
Yeah.
And so,
a really good way to see, ask your question, or ask your kids, hey, what do you think mom and dad value? But then also, like, inventory your time. Mm-hmm. What you spend the most time on, either by yourself or as a family, shows what your value is. If you're spending more time at, competitions and travel ball and sports and this and that, and you do that inventory, you see, man, we're doing a lot of things together, but none of them are making sure that my kid's gonna stay in church, or my kid's gonna love the church. I was listening to that pastor that we like. He had a guest speaker come to his church, and he was just saying, as he was talking about raising a family and raising kids, he was like, we made our kids go to church. We forced them to go to church. And he was like, I know all y'all in the room are being like, oh, you can't do that. They'll run away from the church. And he just said, where in Scripture does it say, you know what, go just make sure you don't hurt their feelings when it comes to church? Now, you raise them up.
Yeah.
You do what it takes. You raise them up the way that they should go, and they don't depart from it. We've made it easy for kids to just be like, I don't want to go to church today.
Yeah.
Because they learned that from their parents, just as a FYI.
Right. No, that's true. So,
back to family values, right? His blanket fell off. He's probably just cold. When it comes to values, we talked. I want to say we probably spent 2.5 hours at.
We had already eaten, had dessert, and we're still sitting there. And she's like, "What are you doing? Homework at the table?"
Yeah, the waitress did ask us if we were doing homework. No, but it was a good conversation to have. You got to get him. Right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's not happy. There he goes.
Oh, man.
Now he's happy.
Yep.
But yeah, I think, like, looking back to some of the things that we thought were the most important, where I remember a lot for you was like fitness and health. Mm-hmm. Like, I want to value that. And I think another huge thing for me was like when I thought about growing up in my family, I did not like spending time at my home.
Yeah.
And I didn't like spending time like with my family.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get out of there as soon as I could. Mm. And so for me, I wanted to like everything that all the values that I wrote down, like that was my big goal, is I want my kids when they are older and they're on their own to want to come back home, to want to be around us. And so I think we both agreed on that, is we want our kids to want to be around us.
Yeah.
And I think everything like that we decided on kind of revolved around that when it came, but also for sure, like learning more about Jesus and reading the Bible and understanding it and discipling our kids is like frame of mind. Like it's probably, crazy to some, but like, I don't remember the last time we turned on our TV.
Yeah.
We have a TV, but we like never turn it on. Now we used to when Tobias was younger, and we had it on all the time. We had it on movies. It
was on Akili. Akili.
Yeah. But we had it on all those things, and like we don't have Disney Plus anymore. We don't have Netflix, which part of that was, you know, they did things that were just came out with shows that were just blatantly just about like Christianity and the Bible. We're like, we don't want to give our money to them, and we kind of started veering in a path where like we're just not watching TV because. For our son, we saw like he was a different child after watching a screen. Mm-hmm. He was. And I know there's been like scientific studies done on that in the brain, especially in young kids. And so we just saw that when we took the screen away, which it was literally like he had to go through a withdrawal. Yeah. And it was awful. But once we went through that, they don't ask for it anymore. Nope. And the only time we ever put on a movie is a very special occasion, or we decide, hey, as a family, we're going to sit down and watch a movie, which is so hard nowadays to find a movie to watch that's not awful. But anyway, so like, I think why I'm saying that is because of that. Like if you take that away, that's such like a central theme in the home, you know, everything's placed around is like facing the TV. Mm-hmm. When you take that away, what is left? Yeah. Our kids had to be around us. Like they're around us playing games. We're playing outside. We're playing soccer. We're tending to the chickens. We're tending to the garden. We're doing homeschool. We're cooking in the kitchen. We're baking stuff. Like we're doing things together, mm-hmm. or we're having conversations, or they're playing, or they're drawing, or they're doing art. It kind of forced them like, okay, I can't do that. I've got to figure out what to do now. And we're there together as a family. So we're doing it together. And so, you know, and it also plays into your discipline too. I mean, if you're constantly nagging your kids and you're constantly yelling, which we need to do a better job of not yelling when we get angry. I was raised in a family of yelling. And we talked about like the cycle, like that is one cycle that I really want to break because it was constant. And like, I don't want that to continue, you know? And so that's something that I know we could work on, but yeah. Yeah. Doing this with your spouse, it is interesting because I think at first, like me and you, there were things that were completely different, but we both wanted our things to be a part of the vibe. Mm-hmm. And so do you remember how we compromised on like...
I do not remember.
I mean, at the end of the day, in my mind, I was like, he's the head of the home. He's the head of the family. I'm going to weigh in. I'm going to give my input and my opinion and my thoughts. But at the end of the day, you're making the decisions and I submit to that. Yeah. Just not always easy.
No. Tell me. No, and it's also a good exercise, even if you don't have kids. You know, I know we've talked to some couples that we've done premarital counseling with about this. Setting up family values. Mm-hmm. But it's super important because if you don't have a common value, right, how can you be on the same team? Mm-hmm. And I think that was a big thing that we had to figure out is we never once had like this come to Jesus, hey, we're on the same team type of, like we just kind of, hey, we're winging it.
Mm-hmm. Which was not good. Mm-mm. Because then you end up feeling like you're against each other. Mm-hmm. When in all reality, like no one's really against you, but you feel like that. And so then you're just like at each other about every little thing. Mm-hmm. When we're just winging it. But yeah, so I think just the main point of this episode was just if you've never sat down and mapped out your family values, and you can write them somewhere and put them in your home, or you know, do something creative or put them on the refrigerator, whatever, and keep them like top of mind. But sit down with your spouse, or if you're engaged, sit down together. It's very good to do it when you're engaged because then it's like, okay,
I know what to expect going into this.
Going into your family and building your family and and being able to meet and compromise and come together is very important. How do you do that?
Yeah.
But yeah.
It shows you where your differences are and your similarities are.
Because ours are very different because we had very different upbringings.
Yeah.
And very different parents who, in the ways that they parented and all of that. So.
That's good.
Yeah. We're ending it here?
We can, yeah.
Okay. So we're ending it here. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. If you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple, or we are putting these on YouTube as well. But thank you so much for stopping by. Leave us a comment or share this with a friend that you know is about to be a parent or about to get married or, has kids. And so just thank you so much for being here. We love you guys. Bye.
Bye.